Hi, everybody. Welcome to week 5. We are more than halfway done. We got this week and next week, and then we are done with our time together. So, to start off the conversation, I just wanted to give you a little bit of feedback and some thoughts in regards to the papers that you wrote, and then I submitted back, I returned back to you via Sakai. And these were the papers that you wrote in regards to your reflections about the Tatum book. And I think one of the biggest things that I read in many of your papers was um, hesitation to engage in conversations about race. And the reason for your hesitation, as some of you wrote in your papers, is that you do not feel confident in your knowledge and understanding about the other in order to engage in conversations about race. Um, that maybe you don't have enough knowledge about the experience or the issues, that you do not possess your own personal experience to draw from to engage in conversation. So, you know, to put it in so many words, you don't want to sound like a fool in these conversations by sounding like you don't know enough or that you're saying something that can be offensive and not know it because you don't know enough. Um, and one thing I have to say about that is that I think that all of us have that blind spot in one shape or form or another. So let me explain. What I mean by that is that all of us um, have experiences that we will never fully understand. So for me, for example, I can say that I will never really understand what it means to be a white person in America. I can read about it. I can read a bunch of stuff about whiteness, white racial identity development, all those things. I could talk to a lot of white folk. I can interact with them, um, but I will never have that personal depth of knowledge that can be had from having that experience of being white in America. With that being said, do I have a place at the table to have a conversation about privilege? And I would say yes. I would say yes. I may not have, I may not be the best voice, or it might not be wise for me. I would not feel comfortable talking about whiteness and the experience of whiteness, but I can bring in my perspective of um, what I know and acknowledging my limitations um, to the conversation that I'm coming into. Does that make sense? Uh, yes, I have blind spots. I will never know the experiences of everyone that could possibly be engaging in conversations about race, but I don't think that excludes me or makes me ineligible to participate in a conversation. I think what it does require me to do, though, is to acknowledge where my blind spots are and to acknowledge that with the people around, people engaged in the conversation. And here's another thought that I was thinking about too, was that when I was reading the papers and people were talking about engaging in conversations about race and racism, it seemed to be focusing a lot on conversations that deal with one side of the coin, which is marginalization and oppression and racism. There is another side of the coin when we talk about the system of oppression, which is the side of privilege and power. So here is where you can also think about what role can you have when you were talking about issues of race. There is definitely the conversation to be had about the experiences of race, racism, and marginalization and dismantling that experience. But there's also the conversation of acknowledging and recognizing privilege and having conversations where people learn and understand what that is, how it impacts society, and what you can do to dismantle um, the power and the systemic power of privilege. So that, I think I put in a couple of your papers, is that sometimes it feels like sometimes when we're talking about discussions of race and racism, that the conversation seems to be focused a lot on issues of oppression. But I think there's a lot of opportunity to talk about issues of privilege. And in fact, I think that's a conversation that I don't see happen a lot. And that a lot of the reason that people are having a hard time talking about and engaging in conversations about race and racism is because there needs, they definitely could participate in conversations about, people could participate in conversations about privilege, but we don't have a lot of opportunity, venues, and spaces to talk about privilege. Maybe not as many as we have for us to talk about oppression. So I really want us to think about that as well. All right, so for this week, we will continue the conversation about how to have conversations about race, racism, and social justice. So I'm going to assign you a chapter and a response from Contested Issues in Student Affairs. And the chapter is written by a former student of mine when I was at Miami of Ohio. His name is Joel Zistra. And we did have really interesting conversations about how to support social justice education in the classroom. And so you'll see his thoughts on that, about that in the chapter. And then you have a response by Nana. And her response is reactions and reflections in response to Joel's chapter. So you'll read those, the chapter and the response. And then I invite you to look at the blog that has been set up for people to respond and react to these chapters and the response, and see what other people have to say about this. Your assignment is to write up a response as if you were someone that was posting a comment on that blog for that particular chapter. And you'll see what I mean when I give you the link. You'll see the kind of comments people, responses and reactions people are giving to their chapters. You can respond directly to Joel and Nana's writings, and or Joel, Nana's writings plus someone else's take as you have read in that blog. You can see from the blog about how long those your response should be. It shouldn't be too long. It's just a blog post, so you can see about the approximate word count. It shouldn't be too long because then it's just a lot of text. So yeah, do that. And if you are really, and if you really want to, you can go ahead and post your comment if you want. You don't have to. You can just turn it into me. But if you feel really passionate about this and you want to participate in the conversation, then you're definitely also encouraged to go ahead and post your comment to the blog post for the chapter and see if there's any responses from other folks as they start reading this chapter and responding to it as well. All right, so that's what I have for Unit 5A. As always, I give you the assignment on Tuesday, and it will be due by the end of the day on Friday. Talk to you all later. Bye.